Welcome to the Witcher Lorecast, the show that explores the vast lore behind the Witcher games, show, and books. Witchers, welcome back to the Witcher Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots, and I'm here with Toasty, what are we even anymore, Toasty? I don't even know.
I know what we're not, Tom.
Lovers.
That too. We're not that.
We're definitely not that.
We're also definitely not friends. That's for sure.
Got it. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome. I'm welcoming my friends back to the show. Welcome, friends, other than Toasty. This episode, we are covering Queen Meve, M-E-V-E. Not Queen Meve from The Boys. If you watched that show. Different.
I haven't, but it's on my list.
Different Meve. This one doesn't have an A in the name. It's just M-E-V-E of Lyria and Rivia. And Toasty, we were talking earlier, there is a lot of detail here. So much so that we're going to have to split this into 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. Sounds like she's an interesting, important person.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is good. It's nice. It's nice that they didn't write off a female character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, The Witcher does one thing for being a male written series. It does one thing well, I believe, at least in my opinion, is it writes women well, or he writes women well. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't cut them out. That's for sure. He's got very prominent, strong female characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Powerful, motivated, with their own goals that have nothing to do with men. All the stereotypical stuff just gets thrown off to the side. And he's like, no, these are powerful, interesting characters on their own. So Good job, everybody. Good job, Andre
Sapkowski.
Yeah, it's spelled weird though, so I just don't trust that pronunciation. Anyway, let's get into it. What do we know about Queen Meve?
All right. Well, Queen Meve, also known as the White Queen, the Merry Widow, and the daughter of Raven. She is of Valyrian nationality, and her title is the Queen of Lyria and Rivia. She's the commander of the Lyrian Rivian army and the White Queen's Corps. She is from the House of Raven, hence daughter of Raven. Her parents were, the only parent we know is Callis or Khaleesi, her mother. Don't know anything about her dad.
Not Khaleesi. That's different.
Not Khaleesi. Though there's a couple appearance traits. The hair is similar. Mm-hmm. Her partner is Reginald. I'm talking about the King Reginald. She had a son named Willem and a son named Anseis.
Anseis. Anseis. Anseis.
Yep, with a little
Willem Anseis
over the E.
Come to dinner. I feel like that's how she talks.
I don't think so.
Willem Anseis. 'Tis supper time.
I don't think she's
Get in the mansion castle, please, because we are royalty. No, you don't think she talks like that?
I don't think. No.
All right. Okay.
I don't think so. She has an unknown number of sisters, at least 2 brothers. She's related to Calanthe, as a distant cousin, Foltest, also a distant cousin, and Dimavin III, as cousin of an unknown degree.
Because all the kingdoms are all related in some way, right?
Yep, basically. There's one family long time ago. We're just like, yo, we're in charge here.
Yeah, they all just divided up and then remarried across each other, just like Europe. Yeah, basically. Yeah. All right.
So a little bit about her appearance and personality. I got a little quote. Says, we're admiring your beauty. That too, Meve, we all know you can find a solution to everything. You have a woman's intuition, you're wise, and it continues on with other I can't think of a word.
Pleasantries? Positive qualities? Compliments?
Sure, probably. Yeah. As said by Henselt and Vizimir II in Blood of the Elves.
Henselt! William! Ansis!
Stop. No.
No?
Why are we German all of a sudden?
Because that's what they sound like.
Oh my gosh. That's what you think. You think they sound like.
That's what I think they sound like. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. By August 1267, when she was nearing 40, Meve's hair turned grayish white, although they appeared blonde from a distance. Combined with the white coat of her horse, they earned her moniker of White Queen.
She's like Geralt. Maybe she was witcherized and nobody knew it.
I mean, she's badass. She's badass. She can do some cool stuff. Despite such hair shade, her face displayed no signs of aging, such as wrinkles. Ironically enough, the White Queen was a figure inserted into Ithlinne's prophecy by Nilfgaardian propagandists alongside the White Flame shortly before the Great War to make the eventual arrival of Emperor Emir and his wife seem legitimate. As Geralt remarked, Meve looked mature but not old. She had light green eyes, full lips, and was considered overall good looking. When in good humor, the queen sported a charming smile. Her jewelry consisted solely of a necklace with enormous rubies inside. After the crucial Battle of Angren, she received a disfiguring scar on her lip and lost several teeth. This made it difficult for Meve to pronounce sonorants. In the end, the wounds healed well enough to not hinder her speech, though remained visible.
Sonorant. A noun or plural noun, sonorants, a sound produced with the vocal cords so positioned that spontaneous voicing is possible. A vowel, a glide, or a liquid of nasal consonant. I don't know what that means.
There's words? I don't.
Like, that's a lot of words. I understand all of the individual words, but when put together, I don't know what that means.
I have nothing. Is it like onomatopoeia? Like, I don't.
What sounds are sonorants in phonetics, any of the nasal, liquid, or glide consonants. So in English, the sonorants are like Y, W, L, R, M, N, and N, G. So Y, W, L, R, M, N, G.
That's a lot of sounds.
That's a lot of sounds that you can't say.
Really difficult.
Yeah, you're missing part of your face.
Prominent sounds right there.
Oof. So by that, she no longer said Willem. Because she couldn't say the L, she'd say Vim. Instead of Anses, she'd say Asses. Vim. Asses.
Oh gosh, that's rough. From among the northern rulers, Meve was seen as the wise and cunning one, benefiting from the intuition of a woman. Unlike the other monarchs present at Hague, she was firmly against infanticide.
That's probably a good thing to be against.
It's a good thing. It's a pretty positive quality there.
Everybody that I'm good friends with is also against infanticide. That's a quality I look for in friendship.
It's not a quality I look for, but I think it does seem to be a common thread for most people.
It's one of the first things I ask when I meet new people.
Are you pro infanticide or not? Like
infanticide, how do you feel?
Right? What's your stance on infanticide?
Yeah. You're into video games? Me too. You like fantasy stories and shows? Me too. How do you feel about infanticide?
You know, like I've kind of like middle ground on it.
Kind of neutral. All right. Okay.
I don't know. We'll revisit this topic.
Yeah.
The queen was a mostly quiet participant in royal deliberations, but when she did speak, she tended to cut to the heart of the matter and all listened to her. Though not overtly religious, Meve would silently pray to Melitele when terrified. During the Second War with the Empire of Nilfgaard, when she refused to give up and formed her guerrilla forces, Meve gained the far-reaching renown as both courageous and steadfast, with the bard Dandelion assigning her the epithet Sunslayer.
Dandelion just nails it. He just nails everything. He writes sick tunes. He comes up with good names for people.
That's a cool name. Yeah. I might use that for a D&D character or something. That sounds sick.
Sunslayer, not SON, SUN, like the bright star in the sky.
Right, not SON, because she's against infanticide.
Right, that would be completely not accurate.
Yeah. Whenever available, Meve valued peaceful resolutions and cherished those who did the same. emotional bursts so innate to insult, by contrast, only amused her. On top of that, Meve, imagine Insult getting all angry and she just laughs.
She's just laughing in his face, like
gets more angry. Probably.
Relax, Insult. Hi, Insult.
On top of that, Meve often held those of a more sensitive constitution in disfavor, and as a result, her relationships with her sons were strained from the very start.
She has very sensitive children.
Yeah, it's just her children are whiny, and she's like, "Shut up! I don't want to hear it."
She just laughs.
Oh man,
that's not a good way to mother your children. At least you didn't murder them.
But there's some aspects you have to like. I mean, she was a warrior. To a warrior queen. Mm-hmm. So like, weakness, mm-hmm. she can't have weakness. She was trying to kill the Nilfgaardians. Like she had to like be strong for that.
I feel like she's got some similarities in character qualities with Calanthe.
Yeah.
That kind of like hard-edged woman, takes no nonsense, but kind of can shrug things off pretty easily. They don't really bother her until they're like really, really important, and then she's serious about them. But like
Calanthe was a bit more like sensitive, like when it came to certain things, like
true,
like her daughter and Ciri, like she was a bit more sensitive about those things. It sounds like Meve is just like, nah, sensitivity, fuck that nonsense, get that out of here.
Yeah, and the elves.
Yeah. This was notably the case with her son
Willem. Or Willem, depending on if she can say the L's or not.
What part in her life she was able to say the words. Right. However, she did ultimately care for both her sons, accepting they were different from her. With her husband dead, Otto grew to be Meve's closest friend, aide, and confidant, secretly harboring feelings for his liege.
So we haven't talked about Otto before.
Odo, like Otto Hightower from House of Dragon.
Man, this is all the fantasy stories are all just melding together here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if that was the case, she should drop Otto as soon as possible. He's proven to be pretty not good.
He's a real
spoilers.
Bore. He's not very good in this.
I bet Odo's much better than Otto.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Meve's personal badge portrayed a lion rampant. I almost said rampart. Tying back to Coram I, holding a sword of the prominent Delenn family from Temeria in one of its paws. She also used elongated royal pennants in colors of her kingdoms, flown in cities and castles where she stayed.
So she specifically had the lion pendant, even though we talked last week about the symbols of Lyria and Rivia with what we call the chicken. It's an eagle, but the eagle and the diamond shapes. What were those called?
Lozenges.
Lozenges, yeah. So her specific badge portrayed a lion.
And I did send a picture. I want to show that to her.
I gotta open it up.
Video.
What? Where?
Perceivers.
Oh, there it is. I see it. Yeah, I'm pulling it up. So this Otto guy, do we know anything about him other than just like he was one of her kind of servants? Not really. What?
There's apparently multiple people named Odo. So
oh, weird.
Yeah. I will find out. I will find out right now as you pull up the picture.
So this symbol is it? And you can see the lion. Well, it's when you think of like this seems very similar to like English royalty, like the lion sideways, kind of standing on its hind legs with a sword, and then you've got the other like combination flags of like the Illyrian and Rivian colors. So you've got like the blue and the yellow, and then the red lozenges and the yellow behind the eagle. But then you also have on the shield shape, like the top left and bottom right, like everything's divided into quadrants. So the top left is like yellow lions on like four legs laying across the shape. And there's three of them stacked. And then you've got the white and red lozenges, three of those. And then bottom left is white background. Red lozenges on the right are the yellow lions on the blue behind it. So it's a little bit hard to describe this for the audio version, but you can go look this up. But it looks like her symbol gets tied into the symbol, including Rivia and Lyria, right? Like it all gets tied together. Kind of like
hers the lion, and then the Lyrian eagle and the lozenges of Rivia all tied together in like one banner.
Right. So yeah, kind of like the United Kingdom flag, how it has combinations from all the different locations all combined into one flag. Cool. All right. Well, we're at the middle of the show.
We got an Odo, but they're a merchant in one of the games. I'm pretty sure that's not the same Odo. As far as her Odo, we don't have any information about him.
Not a whole lot. He just kind of comes up,
like probably like a right hand man. So,
yeah, I don't remember him from anything particular. Like he doesn't stand out.
Mentioned in the books. I think it said the baptism of fire is where he's mentioned, but it doesn't. It's probably not a descriptor. It's just a name for a dude.
Yeah, just kind of briefly comes up. Well, what are we talking about when we get back from the mid break?
We're talking about a little bit about her extensive history.
Okay. Well, here we go. Let's go thank our patrons, and we will be right back.
Very well. Let us get this over with. Something has infested my vineyard.
Great. Let me go prepare my something oil then.
All right, here we are in the middle of the show. This is where we get to thank our patrons for being freaking awesome. All 18 of you. Thank you for helping to support us and make this a thing that we can keep doing every week. And we've got coming up in 1 week. It is the 19th right now. It's Monday night. We record this live on twitch.tv/robotsradio on Monday nights. And in a week from this recording right now today, which you're going to listen to a few days from now, we will be doing our patron chat for the month. And we've got some fun ideas. The community's been chiming in about stuff. So if you want to sign up on patreon.com/Witcher Lorecast, you can join us for a tier 4 or higher, and then that means you can join us on the end of each month. If you sign up for the other tiers, you get other things as well. There's lots of good stuff to get. And just a reminder, we actually had two patrons. We had Crow signing back up last week, and Rob the Princess is joining us. So this is going to be fun. We're going to have a nice group going into next week. So that's what's going on with the Patreon. Thank you to everybody who supports us, and a big shout out to Ben of Temeria and Jared M for being our higher vampires. Awesome stuff. Thank you for being here. And then also, we don't have any new ratings or reviews to read out, but definitely big thanks to you. If you take the time on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other service you listen to us on, if there's the ability to leave a rating, then you do that. Thank you so very much. If you leave a review on Apple Podcasts with 5 stars, we'll read it out as well. Dusty?
We made it past 300 on Spotify.
300
ratings.
302 5-star ratings. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for that. That's the best. All right, let's move on with the rest of the show.
You smell of death and destiny, heroics and heartbreak.
It's onion.
Right, yeah.
So we did kind of a nice overview of her. Why don't we go back to her youth? Like, what was her situation growing up?
So one of the many daughters, Queen Callus gave the king, Meve was born to the Lyrian branch of an old house of Raven. She grew up at a palace in Lyria. After her mother had been removed, the new queen gave birth to at least 2 sons. Interested in the military rather than the needlework or dance, Meve had been initially refused fencing lessons by her parents and thus had to sneak into the kitchen and practice alone or with her brothers. Though tutored by a host of governesses, the princess would still climb trees and read memoirs of generals instead of romance.
Nice.
So like just a little bit of what this sounds like. It sounds like her mother, Queen Callus or Queen Khalees, is the typical situation of she kept giving birth to daughters. Mm-hmm. So she was probably, it says she was removed, but I assume that she was killed. Right. And then he took another wife so that they could, have a son. So that the new wife could give him sons, which, you know, it's totally the mom's fault that she keeps giving birth to daughters.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is another one of those historical things that happens where like they need a boy to hand down the, kingship to. And so this kind of stuff happens. Also, one thing I want to point out here is that for when we go into some of the background and some of the history of this kind of stuff, because so much of this stuff is only pieced together through the bits and pieces we get kind of at the periphery of the stories, there's not the idea that like we don't know the name of the husband, right? Like we don't know the king's name. Like, and maybe Andrei Tarkovsky knows that, but it just never got written into a story. It might be in his notes somewhere, but we don't have. It's not like J.R.R. Tolkien where we have like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, but then Christopher Tolkien comes around and takes a bunch of his notes and sticks it together as the Silmarillion, and all of a sudden we've got a bigger understanding of the world underneath everything. You know, imagine just reading The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and when they reference Gondolin, you being like, well, it was some ancient city. That's all we can tell. Like, that's it. So sometimes that's why this stuff sounds the way it does, is because
watching the Rings of Power now and not having this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, what is the what? What is
that Noldor? What is that? Yeah.
What is all this?
Yeah. But that's kind of what that's the place that we're at with The Witcher right now, is that we have only a limited amount of stuff, and they're expanding it with the games and the show and the tabletop stuff. But as we discussed before, each of those are kind of their own little universes. So they also don't always tie back to the same exact history details.
Meve developed personal distaste for the House Obert, long in conflict with the Ravens, and its leading member Greta. After meeting Calanthe, her distant cousin from Cintra, they became close. Among other things, Meve would notice hot-blooded Callie, as she called the Cintran princess, shuffling feet in excitement whenever a handsome man passed beside them. Their friendship and affection resembled true sisterhood more than anything. In time, malicious rumors of incest arose, forcing Calanthe to look for a spouse in remote Ebbing.
Interesting. The idea that they were close at one point is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you kind of, I'm trying to imagine, like, because it sounds like, you know, because we know from what we know of Calanthe now, right? She doesn't give a fuck about men. She's like, men ain't nothing. I don't need a man. I'll do it myself. But like back then, she would get really excited whenever like a handsome boy would come around.
Right.
It's like,
how much, boy crazy.
I wonder if she like
got burned.
Well, burned probably, but also just we know that she got burned. Also, like how much did she start like channeling Meve? Because Meve was already like, you know, like tough and like wanting to do things that were generally not perceived as like maiden-like,
independent, kind of on her own, like doesn't really care.
How much of an influence did Meve have on her before she left? Maybe, who knows?
That's a good point. Like sometimes you take, you know, like a friendship like that, you take the characteristics of somebody you look up to and you go, oh, I could do that too. I could, you know, why am I hamstringing myself in this role? Why don't I just be more like my friend?
So at the age of 16, we know, you know, young marriage is happening in like this kind of setting. A decision was made to marry her off. A host of nobles dismissed her when seeing post-practice bruises until King Reginald of Rivia fell in love with the princess. So
they were like, she's too rough. She's going out there beating like other guys up with her practice sword.
Yeah, she's got bruises and stuff. We don't. That's not appealing.
That's not womanly.
Yeah, which, you know, makes me respect Reginald a bit more now too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Reginald was like, "No, guys, you're missing out. That's totally hot. Like, what are you doing?"
I mean, think nowadays, honestly.
No, man, that's cool.
Yeah. At first, Meve seldom behaved like a loving wife. Trying to appease her, Reginald bought Ophiri tapestries, sapphire-studded necklaces, a Koviri lute, all fiercely discarded.
Oh, Reggie's trying so hard.
At last, a full-body gilded plate armor proved the right gift.
Nice. Yeah, she's tired of being bruised. She wants to wear that plate armor.
That's so sick. You feel like he thought of that to be like, yo,
yeah. Okay, what does she really want?
Girly stuff. Armor? Nah. Let me get this super cool plate armor.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Once in the late 1240s, Meve went hunting to Waldenrad for the first time and had a soft spot for it ever since.
Good old Waldenrad.
Well, yeah, some of these locations, I assume that's a place in Lyria / Rivia somewhere.
Some city, just like little known. Yeah.
She delivered 2 sons.
Willem and Anses.
Both taking after their father. Casual about his foolishness and sporadic cheating. So,
what? Reggie, we thought you were a good guy. Reggie.
Bye-bye, Reggie. Respect out the window.
Freaking Reggie.
Meve held the king dear. They spent winters at Rivia Castle. During the drought of 1258, Meve roamed the 2 kingdoms to see how her subjects fared. That was when she witnessed firsthand the extremes people were driven to in the times of famine. So learning leadership qualities here.
Actually seeing it for herself rather than just staying in her little secluded, bubble of a world.
There's a lot of nobles. Yeah. So there's a super mad respect to nobles that went out to experience the stuff. In 1259, Reginald, with his last breath, advised Meve to trust none but Reynard Odo and expired.
Trust the guy who's got the hots for you. I'm dying. Bye-bye.
I'm sure he didn't have the hots for her yet.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, she was an exceptional lady and she was attractive. Probably. That's probably fair. Did.
As neither son was ready, he left Meve as the interim regent in both Rivia and Lyria. Hoping to manipulate her, the Lyrian Council of Peers accepted. Opportunist foes who perceived Meve as inexperienced struck forthwith. The queen replaced Silk with the gilded suite from Reginald and mounted her steed to confront them. So yeah, she was like, all right, I don't have to act all queenly anymore. Let me put on my armor and go right out to this. So awesome. This next part is game canon. The commanders of the Lyrian Rivian army were initially skeptical of her to the point of ignoring orders. After beheading a few, the rest submitted.
I mean,
savage.
All right.
Steadily,
she's queen don't kill babies, but when the soldiers act up, chop them off.
Yep. Steadily, the queen won all battles. Lacking any regular training and having trouble recognizing siege weapons, Meve used her memory of various generals' tracks and an intellect to beat capable warriors. The foes surrendered before winter. So, nice. An unconventional war strategy, which, I mean, how often do we see that as the winning factor into things? Whenever you try to fight according to the rules of engagement or whatever.
Sure.
Example, first episode of season 1, they play to the rules of engagement, right? They meet them out on an open field to meet them in battle. What happens? You get stomped. Because their army was bigger, easy. Easing of tension. I cannot read. Easing of tense relations between Vincemere II and her cousin Foltest at the beginning of the 1260s prompted a wedding of Frisena and Folco. Some of these names are a little. It's not Folco. Yeah, 2 different people. Where Meve sent an ambassador. Around this time, at least before June 1267, Meve entered into a military alliance with Temeria.
So she set up this wedding between one of her the people and one of their people. Basically, this is it's not family
marriage alliance,
but it's a marriage alliance among your vassals.
Yep, which is often how you made deals.
Right.
But again, I'm referencing it because it's prevalent right now, seeing how much of an aspect of how much they've been talking about marriage alliances in the House of Dragon.
Yeah.
How often that comes up. So shortly thereafter, Black forces wrought ruin on Sintra. Calanthe committed suicide to avoid being captured. At a conference in Maribor, Meve agreed to assist the reprisal of the 4 kingdoms, sending a force with Captain Odo. The Nilfgaardian Empire, soundly defeated at the Battle of Sodden Hill, called for a truce which she sealed.
Yeah, so now we're up to the events that everybody's familiar with from the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And up to the most recent event from the show. Move into kind of moving into the Second War. Meeting at Haga in 1267, Meve had been summoned to Haga by Demavend III. Going there, Meve was well aware of Fulcis' long-standing romance with Maria Luisa La Valletta.
Can you say
Courtesy-
that? Is that French or Italian? What accent would that be?
I'm getting Italian from it. I don't know why.
I can't do Italian very well. Maria Luisa La Valletta.
Something like that.
I can't do Italian very well. I can do the French version.
Italian.
I can do the French version real good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I can. Yeah. I'm not gonna.
Oh, okay. Okay, my bad. I thought you were gonna. Courtesy of her spies. At the start, Meve remained a silent listener to Dimavend, Foltest of Vizimir II, and Hinsult of Kaidwin, occasionally twisting her lips into an ambiguous grimace. Whilst Vizimir talked of the Nilfgaardian threat, Meve lifted her head. She thought she heard crows croak outside, but realized it was just the wind. Basically, just paying attention to kind of everything, like the talks, all of her surroundings, see that she's very perceptive, while still like not participating yet, as was kind of her way. As they talked about Nilfgaard, Meve stressed they, unlike the North, could afford to wait before striking. Nilfgaardians could wait because they had massive forces.
It just gave them more time to even back up their forces.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because you don't have anything impeding them. Like in this sense of like, if you think about the continent and the like layout of the continent, the northern kingdoms are trapped between Nilfgaard and like
mountains,
nothing else really.
Yeah,
like
the coast, the mountains, and then the north. Like the cold,
north
frozen north.
Still like mountains and stuff too. So it's like you'd have to sail away. If that's just not going to happen. They didn't invest that much because there's really only a couple kingdoms that were even coastal. So
yeah. And the weather, and like another just side note, the weather in the south was better as well. So the climate in the north was much more rough. So they could only muster men during certain seasons, come spring through fall. Whereas the Nilfgaardians had a much more mild winter. They could be moving men at any point during the year.
Yeah. See, that was like the strategic, because I have like read, I've read books like fantasy novels and things where they like there's like war going on, and like one of the big downfalls of like an enemy was like that they attacked a location during like the winter time. Like they kept moving their forces north in the winter, and like the kingdom that they were fighting was like already familiar with the winter. They were used to the winters. So like a lot of the troops from the enemy force just died from sickness or the cold because they weren't used to it.
Yeah, the Napoleonic Wars with as they moved against Russia, and then again World War II as the Germans moved against Russia. The winter in both of those situations destroyed the European side of the conflict.
Yeah, don't push Russia in the winter, guys.
Don't push towards cold areas.
Just don't push
as
Russia.
The year gets
They're
later.
Always cold. It's true.
Yeah, right. Like just don't go fight in cold places because you're not going to win against people who are used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Vizimir praised me for a precise remark, adding that the emperor disturbed a stone resulting in an avalanche, issues with non-humans, the influx of cheap imperial goods, the scoia'tael, etc. So basically, they didn't have to do much, and then they created a whole list of problems. I mean, people were buying all their goods, therefore sending more money to the Nilfgaardians, which is the more money for supplies and forces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we know that they basically mobilized the scoia'tael, and it became a big problem within their own, like the Northern Kingdom's own safe area. Finding it hard to reach a solution, the kings paused to look at me for guidance.
So they're like,
4 kings,
right? Like we're all grumpy. We don't know what's going on. What about you? You've been quiet, right?
Yeah, and also like just the idea of like 4 kings looking to the one queen there and being like, what do you think? We're not sure. What do you think? Like the amount of respect for that. Insane.
Yeah. Well, and she had just proven herself too in a previous conflict where she was able to take on forces that she originally didn't understand and then studied to figure out how to handle them. Right. So she kind of proven herself a little bit.
And again, her like the idea of her unconventional war tactics That's what they need in this situation, because conventional, they're going to lose. Nilfgaardians just have more troops.
Right. Keep on doing the same things. You can get the same results.
Yep. She advised they should opt for decisive action, a thought which reinvigorated attendees who decided to use Sintra as a uniting symbol. Volstis mused its lost heir, Calanthe's granddaughter Cyrilla, should be deemed dead. Meve asked him whether he intended to secretly find her and use Visigurd's volunteers to expand his own kingdom. When her cousin refused, offended that he wouldn't think of marrying a child, Meve snarkily nodded he wouldn't, for he loved Baroness Lavetta. They subsequently decided to restore Sintra's sovereignty, but couldn't agree on the princess's husband and king. Meve rejected the idea of her sons proposing one of her knights instead. To get ahead of Emperor Emir Var Emrys, the king silently agreed to Meve's dismay that the child had to die. Basically, Meve's proposing a marriage alliance to because I do remember this specific detail from the book of the idea that whoever married Ciri then basically was then the ruler of Sintra, and it could kind of go back and rebuild Sintra to what it used to be. And the idea, but none of the kings really agreed on it. They were just if we kill her and then we can just claim Sintra that way, rather than, because they didn't want to risk Emir's claim to Sintra should he get to her first and marry her first, because that's what they were so certain that he was going to do. So
politics. Yeah. No, this is interesting because you're right. It does have a lot to do with House of the Dragon and the same kinds of, inter-house marriages and claims of land and all of that stuff, which gets fairly complex. Have you ever played the Crusader Kings games? Crusader Kings 3 came out a year and a half ago. 2 was out for a while. I
don't think so. No,
it's not like playing an action game. It's like playing Civilization, but instead of managing your civilization the way you do in something like that, you're actually managing the households of royalty. So you could pick a duke of some little place in the middle of Europe somewhere, and then you have to manage who are your advisors, who are you trusting, who are you a vassal of, who do you marry your children off to, and the game just kind of plays out from there. And depending on how well you maneuver your line moving forward changes how much of what you control in the future. And you could play through hundreds of years and still only manage very small swaths of land amidst some very large competitors. Or you could find ways to claim that you have the rights to certain land and then eventually become king of Francia or something, and then move from there. It's super well done. The games they're very, very deep. There's a very large learning curve, but they're very cool. And there's even mods for stuff like Game of Thrones, where you could play in Westeros as feudal lords in Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Yeah, it's very, very cool stuff. Switch in Bed says, how about we just let Ciri pick her own spouse? That would be nice. Yeah, right.
I mean, definitely a good idea. I'd be cool with that.
Yeah. I don't think they realized how much of a badass she was yet. And so they were just we can just make her do what we want.
Yeah. And I'm still because we Ciri, it's still undefined what her sexuality is because I think there's they do tease some stuff and with that boy from the Temple of Melithala, kind of they were flirting or whatever, but then she does later on in the books have a relationship with a woman. It's not a good example because it's very gross and predatory, but so, and then we're not entirely sure. I don't think Ciri wants to marry a man. That's the kind of the vibe I would get from it anyways. Right.
Well, with a lot of these royalty, they married for political reasons more than anything else. And then whatever
seems the kind of person
whatever they did after that was up to them. you know?
Yeah. Siri does seem like the kind of person to just be like, nah, screw that. Like, I'm not going to marry anyone.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
totally
my own person, which she's got the power to back it too. So like, oh, you got to marry this guy to solidify your ruling. And it's like, I can teleport through time. So like, how about no?
How about I just go somewhere else?
How about I don't? How about I teleport? Yeah. No.
How about I take you through time with me and I leave you there?
Yeah.
How about that?
Like, no longer not beheading the bad soul. They're the obstinate soldiers, just leaving them in other dimensions.
Let me take you to a place where there's some really crazy elves. Let's go see.
Oh,
have you ever met a unicorn? Let's go. Let's go.
Don't worry, you won't meet one here. They're all dead anyway.
Or we can go back in time to when they were still alive, and they were probably very violent.
Oh God, can you imagine that? Like, oh, this is what I do with my unruly servants. I take them to the realm where elves are in charge and make humans their slaves.
Yeah, there you go.
Jeez.
Enjoy, have fun. Yeah, cool stuff. Well, so you said there's more. There's in fact, there's a good second episode we need to do about Meve. What are we going to cover next time? Like, what else is there?
A bit more history, a lot about the Second Northern War, and it's very involved with the Second Northern War, and then a bit of what happens after.
Yeah, so kind of moving past the events of what we've seen in the show as of this point, as of recording this today so far.
Yeah, because the Second Northern War is a lot more involved. First one was basically the Battle of Sodden Hill. We're good. The next one was actually the war with like Nilfgaard and Scoia'tael and things. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, it's time to wrap up the show. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Toasty, you got Cyberpunk episodes out there. Also, you've got another announcement.
I do. I do have another announcement. It's crazy. It's crazy how that happens. Yeah. Tom here is he's got too many shows.
He's got too many shows, guys.
He's got too many shows. He needed to pass off the crown to someone else on the Cyberpunk Lorecast.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I went dormant on it like 7 months ago, something like that.
The last episode was in April 2nd.
Yeah, so kind of just ran out of new stuff to talk about. Kind of the whole Cyberpunk thing but everything had been pushed back so many times on like when the next patch is going to come out, when we're going to see the DLC, all of that stuff. So it kind of took the wind out of my sails. So I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to put this to the side. And in the meantime, I launched the Lord of the Rings Lorecast, which is doing amazingly well. So I've got other priorities. Starfield Lorecast is going to be coming back sometime. We're going to start getting more info this year as we get closer again to when launch should be, because they keep pushing that back. So that's going to have to gear up. That's going to be a huge thing. So I was like, I don't want the show to go away. So I asked Toasty, I was like, Toasty, I know you love Cyberpunk. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then we got in touch with Jen from Two Girls, One Ship, Genesis. And the two of you are going to work together and basically bring the show back.
Yep.
So awesome stuff. So if you're into Cyberpunk, if you like CDPR, all their games, and Artel Sorian, who also does Witcher and Cyberpunk stuff, then go check out the Cyberpunk Lorecast. It talks about a bunch of the history and stuff. There's a bunch of episodes, 100-some episodes from when I was doing it. And then the two of them are going to take it in their own direction, kind of do their own thing with it. So awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Have fun with it.
Yep. So that'll be new episodes will be coming out probably in the next week based on what we talked about. We'll see. You guys will figure it out.
We'll see what happens.
Awesome. And then there's all my shows, all of our stuff on Robots Radio, twitch.tv/Robots Radio. Come hang out with me. I've been streaming in the afternoons on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I've got a bunch of other shows. Toasty's got other shows. A bunch of our other hosts have other shows. robotsradio.net for the whole list of everything. If you're into some sort of fandom, there's probably a show there that you'll like. So go check that stuff out. And that's it for this week. Anything else, Toasty? You good?
Follow us on Twitter, The Witcher Lorecast.
There you go. All right. Well, until next time.
Stay safe on the path.
We'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks thanks for tuning into the Witcher Lorecast. We'd love to hear about your experiences with the games and the books and the TV series and all your thoughts on everything. Please check out the Robots Radio Discord and follow us on Twitter at Witcher Lorecast.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.